Highline is more than schools. It's people. Students, educators, leaders, families, and neighbors, each with a story to tell. These are our people, and these are our stories. Welcome to the Promise Podcast, where we share how the Highline Promise comes to life. Every student is known by name, strength, and need, and graduates prepare for the future they choose. I'm your host, Superintendent Duran. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Promise Podcast. Very excited to be here today because we are out on the road again. We are at Glacier Middle School, and today we welcome a Highline Middle School principal to the podcast. So please introduce yourself, your name, your role, and how you are connected to Highline.
Hey, I'm Tamasha Emedi-Frye, and I'm the principal here at Glacier Middle School. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been in Highline my whole professional career. I started as a teacher at Bow Lake Elementary. I moved on to teach at Hazel Valley Elementary. I was an AP there for a while, and then I became an AP here, and now the principal here at Glacier.
Oh, great. Well, again, thank you for joining us on this podcast, and I was excited to have you on because I feel like, I've known you my whole time here in Highline over the last 4 years, and we have a really great connection because not only did I know your role as assistant principal at Hazel Valley, but you've also been my partner and co-planner and MC for the Leadership Forum. And
yes.
So for our listeners, Leadership Forum is an opportunity that we have here in Highline where we bring our central office leaders and building administrators together 4 times a year. It's where we spend a lot of time talking around the culture work that we're doing, our promise, the equity work. And Tamasha has been front and center with me during the last 3 years when I started leading that whole process. So can you just talk a little bit around, like, you've always been out front, leading our principals and our school leaders, and as well as our central office leaders. Like, what do you get out of doing that? Because you've been doing it for a bit, and you just have so much fun and a lot of joy. So what does it mean for you to be part of Leadership Forum in the way that you've been?
Yeah, thank you. I love being in front of people. I'm a big extrovert. I was an only child for a long time, and my siblings were born when I was 10 and 11 years old, and then after. So I do love attention. But for me also, I think the thing that brings me a lot of joy about it is, like I said, I've been in Highline my entire professional career. A lot of my friends I met either before I started working or they started working in Highline and left, and many of them came back. I just have a lot of heart for what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. And the older I get and the more I'm paying attention to systems and how things worked historically and what folks are trying to do across our state, across our county, and within our district to make things better, the more I realize that I'm excited to be rooted here in the work that is going on here and the change work that's happening. And the changes that I want to see that make me really excited are slow on purpose because they are supposed to be lasting. And I've really felt that, especially having the opportunity to zoom out and think about my experience in 2013 versus 2026. It's really, really exciting, and it brings me a lot of joy. And just the folks that are attracted to Highline and the folks that want to stay and the folks that come here because of their friends, like, all of those people made me personally better and definitely make our system better. So it's just nice to hang out with them.
That's great. I really appreciate your leadership in that. You do bring a lot of joy. You also bring a lot of reality because, we talk about the real stuff that's going on here in the district at Leadership Forum. Mm-hmm. And we know it's so important for our leaders to be continually looking at themselves and how they improve to be a better human being. But thank you for all that you've done. I have enjoyed partnering with you on that, and it's a wonderful opportunity. So, this podcast is all about our promise, which is know every student by name, strength, and need so they graduate prepared for the future they choose. So how do you see the Highline Promise come to life in your daily work and experience here at Glacier?
Yeah, I was thinking about it a lot because I remember when we were trying to figure out what our promise was going to be and all the wordsmithing, which I know you and I have talked off mic about this before. Wordsmithing is not my favorite. Mm-hmm. I really care more about the vibes than the words, but I also understand that wordsmithing really matters. And in fact, the promise has really helped root me in really tricky situations and things that could have otherwise felt very complicated. I had a vision and a clarity about what my next steps were because I knew what we were about. And even if I'm in something new or something different that I've never experienced as an educator or as a leader, I know that as if what I'm doing moves me toward knowing every student by name, strength, and need and preparing them for the future that they choose, then I'm moving in the right direction. And so I think that helps a lot, especially my whole career I've been in elementary. And my friends would always talk about like, oh, I went out to the bars and I ran into one of my students because they're 21 now. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's never happening to me, but it's starting to. My first group of kids that the oldest group of kids that I ever taught, I think just graduated from high school last year.
Okay.
And so it's starting to happen where students that I know and students that I taught are out in the world and being adults. And I've had the great opportunity to have a couple of them, email back and be like, hey, I've been thinking about you. Like, here's some stuff going on. And almost every time a kid tells me something that I've done or said that mattered to them, it's something that I do not remember, right? It didn't feel big to me at the moment, but it clearly felt really big to them. And it's just such a nice reminder that, you have no idea what other folks are going to remember, what other folks are going through. But if you stay focused on your integrity and focused on what you care about, focused on your values, then the right decisions will come out, whether or not you planned them ahead.
That's right.
Or not.
That's right. Yeah, I really appreciate that. You really do know. You don't know what the impact's going to be, as you work with students on a day-to-day basis. So as we think about impact, who has inspired or supported you along your journey here in Highline?
Yeah, for me, it's always the partnerships. So when I first started working in Highline as a first grade teacher, all my student teaching had all been in middle school and fifth grade. And I really didn't want first grade, but it's what happened. It's what I got. And I had a colleague, Anna Leroy, who doesn't work in the district anymore, but she had me over in her house and helped me remember how to teach reading to young kids. And throughout that process as a teacher, every time I was on a team, someone on the team took me under their wing and helped me out. I had a great opportunity to do a lot of leadership development through our union, actually. I saw that Jeb was a guest earlier, and I got a lot of support there too. In fact, Jeb was one of the people that tapped me for leadership and encouraged me to consider what leadership could look like through that direction. And then once I got the opportunity to be a leader here in Highline, I think for sure I rest a lot of my laurels on Casey Janot, who's the current principal at Hazel Valley and was the principal the entire time I was there as a teacher and an AP. I think it can be really tricky to be a colleague to someone and then become their boss. And I wanted to do it with integrity and also aligned with my values that it can be hard to do. I had really deep friendships, and she was an incredible coach through that entire process and helped me get really clear about what's most important as a leader and how do I center that even while holding on to important relationships, that I had built as a teacher. And I still, when I had the opportunity to come here, she's the first person I talked to. When I had the opportunity to become the principal here, she's the first person I reached out to. So I definitely owe a lot of where I'm at to how she supported me and helped me set my foundation.
That's great. Yeah, that leadership and people that inspire you are so important for us because, again, you never know how someone's going to impact you or support you in the future. And I didn't know that you were taught first grade, so you actually have done full circle, starting off your experience in middle school, going to first grade, and then now being at Glacier Middle School. So that's
Definitely.
A full circle story right there. So, all right. Well, when you think about the future for yourself, your students, or our community, what gives you hope these days?
I am excited about how much people are choosing each other right now. I felt a little disheartened. I remember in the time we came back after our emergency shutdown in 2020, and when we all came back, I was feeling a little disheartened. It felt like folks were choosing, people had to, for safety, for survival, they had to choose themselves. They had to really kind of turn into the individual, and I felt a massive separation. And over these last few years, I've felt that shift of us choosing each other, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when we're not sure, and that turning to each other, that turning toward community in times of crisis feels so much more sustainable than hoping personally I have everything I need when I'm in a crisis. And I think that it's an interesting edge to walk in the culture, in the American culture, because there's a lot of focus on folks being make sure you're okay, and as an individual you've got what you need, and it can feel a little bit like you're being dependent maybe on others if you're constantly asking for others for support. But more than ever, I'm also having people ask me. So it feels more like a back and forth. And we really are like a web that keeps each other strong, as opposed to one person sucking up all the energy or one person focusing only on themselves and not sharing with others. And that's both like personally within like my relationships in Highline, but also I think systemically with a lot of the work that we've done in the leadership ways of making sure that what's going on in one leadership group is communicated well with another leadership group. And as a principal that talks to all of those people, it's the most aligned I've ever felt as a leader here in Highline.
Well, that's good to hear, because that's what we're working on. So, alignment, coherence, and system improvement. And I love this idea of choosing each other, because we have really been talking a lot around how we want to build upon the bright spots that we have here within the district, because we're seeing some great work, we're seeing some positive things happening, and it's really going to take people learning from each other to go and visit. I was sharing with people my visit here last week as I came over to observe your training for your paraeducators that you have, and that was a bright spot. I shared that at a board meeting. It was just a powerful example around a school identifying a challenge or a problem they're having and then coming up with their own solution. And so I think it's a brilliant bright spot, and I hope more people learn from it. But can you talk a little bit around here within the school context, how does that choosing each other play out? What does that look like here at Glacier? Can you give me an example of how that has been played out just here in the school environment?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that there felt like a lot of fracture in our school previously, just because there's been a lot of leadership turnover in the school, and we're brand new, and we opened the year of the pandemic. So 2019, 2020 was the first school year at this school. And also, unlike other schools that we've started in Highline, this school started with a full 6-8 cohort. So it wasn't sixth grade that rolled up, but it was 6, 7, and 8. So kids pulled from rival schools, kids pulled from schools, that they tried to be as sports. So it was a lot of not understanding what it meant to choose each other. And we had and have a lot of brilliant educators here in our building, and they were having a hard time figuring out how to work together. So there were like 7 or 8 really cool, very big deal things that were becoming part of our school's culture, but they were all being held by 1 to 2 people, which made it really unsustainable. And it was hard for people to keep choosing Glacier, even though they loved it, because when they were exhausted, there was nowhere to turn to, right, because the systemic work of braiding together all these brilliant ideas from these brilliant people was missing. And that has been a huge focus for us this year. When I first started working here, folks kept speaking at all levels. They were like, it always feels like Glacier's in their first year again. Like, it's year 1 all over again. And so our big focus this year was, we're not in year 1 anymore. Like, we're doing things the Glacier way. We're showing up as Glacier shows up in our culture. And what we're doing is just solidifying, defining, and weaving things together. And we've seen some really incredible stuff, mostly including like celebrating young people that we were doing, but just in these small silos. So like one class would have a celebration after school, and then like one department would do a celebration during the school day. But now we have these much bigger whole school celebrations incorporating ideas from all of those people. And we've seen, we just pulled the data. We just had a big data day with the adults on Friday. We were looking over our behavior data, and it's for the first time in my educational career, I met an annual action plan goal that I wrote.
That's great. That's good news.
And it was a big goal. It was lofty, but we made it, and we were looking over our strategies. And I think the number one strategy was we changed our celebrations from hopefully someone remembers to celebrate a kid to systemic, consistent celebrations of kids, some that are weekly, some that are monthly, and some that are quarterly. And none of us did that alone. Wow. That was done as a collective group of people who have been dedicated to Glacier longer than I've been the leader here.
That's a great example. So much of choosing each other, embedded in there, and of course knowing that it's impacting students in that way is just super positive. So congratulations on meeting that goal.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we can continue to focus on those areas and keep that work going on. So, all right. Well, what's one dream you have for the Highline students?
I'm excited for Highline kids to, I've said this before to other people. Like, one of my dreams for Glacier is I want people, don't tell anybody in enrollment, but I want kids to lie about their address because they want to come here, right?
Okay.
Like, and not just because we have a great sports program, but because everything is great. Our sports program is great. Our music program is great. Our classes are great. Like, I want people to be like, Glacier's amazing. I want to figure out how to get there. And I want the same thing for Highline. When I first was looking for jobs in 2013, I didn't know Highline was a school district, even though I've lived in Washington my whole life. It's because I grew up in Olympia. We didn't play each other. We weren't in the same, sports arena. I was 18. I didn't know what was out there. But I think it would be really incredible, just like we have these things going on where it's like, oh, I went to Wazoo, you went to Wazoo, like Wazoo buds for life. Like, I'm really excited for that to be true for our Highline students as they graduate and be like, oh, you went to Evergreen, I went to Mount Rainier. That's amazing. Like, we're all part of this like really incredible thing that we all know about and care about, and that the connections that are built here last so long and become so trusting that, similar to what happens with undergrad institutions, if an adult is out in the world and they see that someone went to a Highline school and they went to a Highline school, they're like, those are my people. I'm hopeful that community that I know all of us are working so hard to create can last for years once kids are out of our care.
That's great. Yeah. Well, enrollment will be listening to this, I'm sure, but you really
Sorry,
speak a
team.
lot to the idea around just a culture of belonging, which is one of our, main goals with our strategic plan, and knowing that, students feel welcome, valued, and safe, knowing that adults feel welcome, valued, and safe, they're going to want to contribute more. They're going to see themselves being part of that group. And, I think it's a great way to be thinking around how we recruit people to Highline. So some of our, Steve Grubb, our assistant superintendent overseeing human resources and other areas, always talks about that, we sometimes are our best recruiters for the district because we're the ones that are talking about our stories, our experiences, but people will always talk about how they feel, and that goes a long ways in the recruitment of others to the work that we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis here in Highline. All right, well, we've got one more question for you. You can take this question. I always tell people take it professional, take it, personal, however you want to. But what's something you're reading, watching, or listening to right now that you would recommend to our listeners?
Ooh, thank you for asking that question. I am an avid reader. I am terrible at remembering to return my library books, and so I use an e-reader to read a lot. But I do think audiobooks are books for anyone who's curious. Yes, audiobooks are books. If you listen to a book, you read that book. And I really enjoy this science fiction series called the Wayfinder series. The first book in the series is called A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. And what I love about this is by Becky Chambers. It's a book that I love in my personal life, but I feel a lot of the lessons from that book and from the series in how I lead as well. One of the things I love about it is it's a little bit science fiction, a little bit speculative fiction. Like, what if we all tried our best and things kind of worked? Like, what if we solved a lot of things that weren't working and then we fixed it? Then what would happen? Like, what else? How would we function as a society? And in the story, all of the main characters, nobody's really the bad guy. There's definitely some misunderstandings, but everyone is truly just trying their best with the information that they have. And the way to solve almost every problem is to have a deep level of understanding of someone, even if you're not particularly fond of that person. I think that life skill is important for me personally as a leader, and I think anybody who has a love or an attachment to Highline at all, I think would really enjoy the series. Plus, it's fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I haven't heard of that. And
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like choosing each other. So I'll have to add that to my list because it's been growing since we ask this question every time on the podcast. And, get that book in there. But I'm always looking for a good book to read, especially in the fiction element, because I tend to read so much nonfiction, during the day, that I always love a good fiction book. So, well, Tamasha, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It was a real pleasure. I was really looking forward to having you on this, and it's just great to have you part of this.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, great. Well, that's it for this episode of the Promise Podcast. These stories remind us that Highline is built by people, students, staff, families, and community members, each making the promise real in their own way. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. I'm your host, Dr. Ivan Duran. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you soon.